Good afternoon, participants. Good afternoon, Rajeshri Madam. Thank you for joining with us. Uh, the session 2 on day 4 of Atal sponsored FDP, we are going to hear from Dr. Rajeshri Khanai on RF signal processing tools and technique. Thank you, Madam, for accepting our invitation. It is our pleasure to introduce Dr. Rajeshri Khanai, Professor in Electronics and Communication Engineering Department of KLE's Dr. M.S. Sheshagiri College of Engineering and Technology, Belgaum, Karnataka. Dr. Rajeshri received her PhD in Error Correction Coding, Cryptography for Wireless Networks from Vishweshwarya Technological University, Belgaum. Her research interest includes error control codes, cryptography, wireless communication, software-defined radio, and machine learning. She is currently professor in the Department of E&C. She is guiding 7 PhD research scholars under Vishweshwarya Technological University and currently working on National Age Incubation Center, Government of Karnataka funded project in software-defined radio. Dr. Rajeshri is senior member of IEEE. I welcome Dr. Rajeshri for this session and thank her for accepting our invitation. Over to you, madam.
Thank you very much, sir. Sir, am I audible?
Yes, ma'am.
Okay, and my whether my slide is visible on the screen?
Yes, madam, it is visible, but I request you can turn off a video, like in order to save the bandwidth, and
Yeah,
possible you can make the presentation full screen.
yeah, sir. Okay, no problem.
Clearly visible.
Thank you, sir. Thank you. Is it on slide mode now?
Yes, madam, it is visible, but
Just a minute. I'll keep it on slide mode. Yeah, this is a slide mode. That's what. Whether it is on your screen on slide mode, just I want to ask so that I can start with.
madam, but the PPT is visible. Maybe next slide you can show. We will check.
Yeah, is it fine now, sir?
Yeah.
Okay.
Yes.
Yeah. Thank you once again, Dr. Tose, sir. A very good afternoon to all the participants, and also a very happy Makar Sankranti to all of you. So now, in this afternoon, my topic for the discussion is RF signal processing tools and techniques or technologies. Now, from for last 5 days, already we are undergoing or listening to speakers like Swapnil sir, wherein we are trying to understand or we are going through or sir is taking us all the way through one of the softwares or tools called Tarang. But if we want to really understand the tools such as Tarang, CST, or any kind of tools with which you all are working, we all are working, we need to know the underlying important thing, that is technology or techniques. Now the sir was showing us how if we vary the resistance, how the signal starts varying, how we start getting the different values or different parameters. But when it comes to the design, when it comes to the system, when it comes to the implementation, finally, while working with high frequency signals, the simulation is one part which is completely different, and the implementation difficulties or challenges is another part, and for which we have to be aware of technologies or techniques. If I change this resistance, what I am supposed to get, and what is my expected outcome, whether I'm supposed to get the same. Yeah, there lies the technology, and which we all have to be aware of. Now I'll be discussing about basically technologies, tools. Anyway, we are learning at least one of the tools we are learning in this FDP, or many of you all may be doing your research, your work using different tools like HFSS, like CST, or many more. But techniques or technologies plays a very important or vital role in RF signal processing when it comes to the, or when we will be working with RF system. In the current situation, all of us, we are aware of analog and radio frequency circuits, RF circuits, play an extremely essential role in bridging the physical and digital world, right? The physical world is nothing but our analog domain or analog world. If I talk about data communication, that requires analog circuits to transform digital signals into either electromagnetic waves or electrical pulses to enable data exchange either through wire, either through cables or through air. Maybe it is wired or wireless. The transformation between these digital and physical signals nowadays getting more and more demanding because of the emerging trends, which we call it as the huge data or big data, or maybe because of cloud services, or very importantly because of Internet of Things. And these are driving up the amount of data communication tremendously or exponentially. And therefore, to meet such rapidly growing demands on high data rate communications, the IMT 2020, that is 5G promotion group, is targeting future 5G networks to support up to 20 gigabits per second, which is almost 20 times faster than 1 gigabits per second specification of 4G. Similarly, when we talk about bandwidth, the increased bandwidth in data centers also taken care of for speeding up the communication with the adoption of 100 gigabits per second interconnects, which is also not less than 10 times faster than current 10 gigabit per second systems. So, such enhanced data rates, it is still crucial to achieve the higher power efficiency for the very huge amount of data when it is required to be transferred or transmitted from one place to another. Now, before I proceed with my flow of presentation or with various slides, just I want to have one discussion. Whatever we are talking about this RF system or RF domain, the fundamental of this RF domain is electromagnetic waves. We all are aware of. And also we know that electromagnetic waves are generated when charged particles, if I say like this, for example, EM waves are generated when charged particles are moving through a conductor experiences the acceleration. Yes, absolutely, no doubt. It seems to be a very simple statement, maybe a scientific statement, but very simple statement. But today's engineers, today's researchers, or today's technology, right, have transformed this simple phenomena into a means of utterly transforming human life. And from the first successful radio transmissions in the 1890s to the sophisticated digital modulation systems of today's 21st century, wireless communication has been an important and really enduring manifestation of our persistent improvements in electronic technology. We also know that what was once found primarily is specialized applications has expanded into almost every aspect of our daily lives, like radio frequency communication, which has truly become or really become an ubiquitous feature of our current or modern society. We know that it is very difficult for us to imagine how people were ever survived without cell phones, GPS systems, or internet. What I mean to say, wireless internet connection, right? But then at the same time, we also know that the analysis, though the analysis and design of RF circuits are quite complex, and also the real life RF devices. See, when we simulate the RF system on a particular tool is entirely the different case. But when it comes to the real life RF devices, often behaves in a ways that are difficult to predict. It becomes very difficult. We have simulation results, yes, on our computer, but when it comes to the implementation, right, it is really difficult to predict or to match the results of simulation with the actual. But nevertheless, many important aspects of radio frequency communication systems still are within the reach of, right, the technology, basically the tools, technology, and very importantly, researchers. So having the idea in this way of RF signal processing, right, I will take you all through few slides wherein initially I'll be just introducing the signal processing, because whether it is a tool or a technology, right, it while implementing or while coming up with a RF system, we need to play with the RF signals or high frequency signals. So we need to understand how we are going to analyze, understand, interpret these signals, and then comes to the part of implementation. So we will be talking about signal processing. And when I talk about signal processing, whether it is low frequency or high frequency, we cannot forget the person, Joseph Fourier, and how the Fourier transform is important in signal processing and especially RF signal. We will talk about. Then what is RF? Yes, everyone is aware of. How do we use it? Let us brief out about this. And then especially in RF systems, the researchers says that DSP almost fails because of its cost. I mean to say digital signal processing fails. That's why we go for analog signal processing, which is one of the technologies. But then what are the open researches in a digital and software RF processing we will see. And then we will see the frequency domain of RF in RF domain, frequency analysis in RF domain. And very briefly, we will talk about, just I will introduce anyway, as I mentioned in the beginning, we are already going through one of the tools. So just we will look into the various tools for RF design engineers. And then one or two technologies or open research topics we will discuss about, that is microwave signal processing, and one more topic or technology is microcombs. Now, before going to the again signal processing, right, I'm not talking about here when I talk about Fourier transform or any type of signal processing, I'm not talking about low frequency signals. That is all about the different story. But now in this session, we will be talking about high frequency signals. So before I move on, just let me share this slide with you all. That is simple, the radio spectrum. This is nothing but the radio communication portion of electromagnetic spectrum, and that extends from VLF to EHF. that is very low frequency band to the extremely high frequency band. And the range of this band is about 3 kilohertz to 300 gigahertz. From very low frequency, I can have low frequency, medium frequency, high frequency, very high frequency, ultra high frequency, and so on, till up to extended high frequency. Just to have a recall of the spectrum, let me come to the point of the discussion: signal processing, or RF signal processing, or high frequency signal processing. As the slide tells here, if I look into the frequency versus time domain, here I have the high frequency signal, time domain measurements. And if you just forget about all other mathematical aspects behind it, why frequency domain is important? If I look into the frequency domain measurements here, it is a very clear picture or analysis of the information before I transmit is very clear. This signal, if I look at in a time domain, I don't know what is the energy or what is the strength of the information at what point. That becomes very difficult, especially in high frequency signaling. In case of low frequency signaling, yes, even in a time domain, we can understand at what point of time, what is the signal strength, whether it has to be transmitted, whether it is a noise or the actual information which I need to transmit. I mean to say, overall, we can analyze and understand the signal in a time domain comfortably as long as the frequency, the signal is having low frequency. But as the frequency of the signal start increasing and we talk about terabytes, megabytes, gigabytes, right? Hertz, sorry, I mean to say, right? Then it becomes very difficult to understand at what time or what frequency, what is the energy or what is the information content, and whether it is the information content or the noise, right? In frequency domain, the complete picture of the information will be available, and later having the magnitude of that information at particular frequency, we can also understand whether it is the signal or the actual information or it is noise. And thus why we go for transformation of time domain signal to frequency domain, and where it comes the Fourier transform. So before going to the Fourier transform in depth or maybe to some extent, we are talking about Tarang, we are talking about CST, FDTD, there are so many things. But usually, maximum researchers, we work on MATLAB. And even MATLAB has all types of toolboxes with respect to the RF domain, wherein we develop the algorithm, right? And we analyze the data in frequency domain or maybe time frequency domain many a times as per the requirement. So we need to write either the MATLAB code or the existing algorithms in MATLAB also will help us to understand and analyze the data not only in time domain, it depends on the application, frequency domain or time frequency domain. So with respect to now, all those tools and technologies, this is also one of the technology, what I personally feel like Fourier transform. This is named after the great mathematician Joseph Fourier. This FT is basically, or the Fourier transform is basically, is nothing but mathematical procedure, right? That allows us to determine the frequency content. I'll explain you with an example, but basically it allows us to determine the frequency content of a particular function or a signal or the information. For electrical or electronic researchers, engineers, basically, the Fourier transform is typically applied to functions of time that usually we call it as signals. Now, a plot of voltage or current versus time, if we take off, we would see on basically on oscilloscope display, but it is an intuitive representation of a signal behavior. It is not, however, the only useful representation. Am I right? Now, in many cases, for example, what I mean to say here is, in the design of RF systems, that is, if we are interested primarily in the periodic behavior of the signals, let me more be specific. Let me say that we are interested in understanding a signal with respect to the sinusoidal periodicity, which is the most important factor when it comes to the Fourier transform or transformation of signal from time domain to frequency domain. We try to convert the signal into sinusoidal with sinusoidal periodicity because the fundamental reason behind it is these sinusoids are the unique mathematical expression of a pure frequency. There is no disturbance. We will have a pure frequency with the sinusoidal waveforms. And therefore, such Fourier transforms will reveal the signal's elemental periodicity at particular point of time by decomposing the signals into its constituent sinusoidal frequencies, as I have shown here. The word decomposing, maybe you may feel that it is difficult or crucial, but the Fourier transform teaches us to think about the time domain signal as a waveform that is composed of underlying sinusoidal waveforms with various magnitudes and phases. Now, let us take here, to understand that, let us take an example of square wave, which is represented here by blue line. Here, this square wave is decomposed into an infinite series of sinusoids with different colors. What has been shown here, it is decomposed into different infinite series of sinusoids with amplitudes that steadily decrease. We can see here, those are steadily decreasing, right? One is almost more than that. Then if you look at the green and other sinusoids, they are steadily decreasing, and frequencies that steadily increases. So if you start looking into these smaller amplitude signals here, the frequency, the amplitude is less, but the frequency is increased. The exact series, if I look into, and this happens with the Fourier transform. For an AC coupled square wave of a period t, and this amplitude is, for example, I can take it as anything 1 or a. So this is the equation wherein I have infinite number of sinusoidals here, which is the representation of the square wave which is plotted. Now we can convert this into, or we can take it into with some more information, like the plot shows the original square wave. Basically, we know that with one color, and we have in that particular, especially in this particular graph, we have taken only 8 sinusoids. The first 8 frequency components we have taken off for the understanding purpose. Now, if you look at now, after that, if you look at this plot, you might still be a bit skeptical that these sinusoids can be combined into a square wave. Yes, we can do that. When I combine all those sinusoids, right? For this is first sinusoid, second, third, and though in graph I have considered 8, I can add all these sinusoids and I can extract back. I can extract with a very small distortion, and this is called as practicality. If I combine all these, I may receive or I may extract my square signal or the information what I was supposed to understand or analyze, that I will get back. But how Fourier transform is applied on the time domain signal? We start calculating the Fourier transform. We start with the function f of t, which is mentioned in this equation. And through mathematical decomposition, we produce the function, f of omega. It is typically the angular frequency, what we discuss theoretically, right? And we need to evaluate f of omega at some specific angular frequency. Let me take one example. Say, I want to evaluate f of omega at some specific angular frequency, that is 100 radians per second. That gives us the magnitude and phase of the sinusoidal component of this input signal f of t that has a frequency 100 radians per second. But if f of t does not have that sinusoidal component at that frequency, then naturally the magnitude will be 0. And in such a way, the signal starts filtering out. I use the word filtering, but it doesn't mean that I am filtering the noise. Sometimes that information is not available if at that frequency, then that also may be filtered out if it is less. And hence we will get the magnitude 0. Now, we many a times, right, having such equations, right, we know this is Fourier transform, whether it is a small signal or high frequency signal, we apply signal processing and we get frequency components in frequency domain, right? But many a times we wonder how one function f of omega can report both magnitude and phase. It is there is a simple answer for that. The Fourier transform is a complex function, complex values function, because of e raised to. That's what people say, right? Though Fourier transform, though it is a fundamental to start with, to transform signal from time to frequency, the analysis in the frequency domain becomes easy. Comfortably, we can understand in the frequency domain what the signal is and what we are supposed to do with it. But the process of Fourier transform, because of its complex value in the equation, when it comes to the implementation, it is difficult. But at the cost of that difficulty, we need to go with such transformations. I don't say exactly Fourier transform, since it is just the beginning, right? In radio frequency, in many RF systems, we talk about not only this DFT, FFT, right? Many more frequency transformations. Now, let us come to the frequency spectrum of that previous square wave. As I had mentioned in one of the slides previously, if I look at this is the information I am converting into sinusoidal waves. Why I am showing this? Since it is the same square wave if I add all the sinusoids. But if I look at the frequency domain analysis, this is the spectrum with various frequency components of that square wave. We see in many textbooks such graphs. In time domain, we have a complex signal, and in a frequency domain, we have such simple frequency components. So now, in between, see, there is one signal or one energy of the signal which is at 1, 3, 5 or wherever, but in between, I do not have anything. So this is called as a deterministic signal, which can be modeled mathematically, where earlier, if I talk about, see, when I talk about radio communication, the signal may be speech signal, the signal may be sound signal, they may be any complex signal, which are so random, which are really difficult to understand, analyze, and they will have a challenge while transmission. But if I have a signal in this way, which we call it as a deterministic signal, which can be modeled mathematically, it helps in the implementation, and where the Fourier transform plays an important role. Now, let us come to the what is RF, or why do we use it? Now, when we talk about RF, we have to think of electricity. Am I right? And in turn, we are forced to think of wires. From high voltage transmission lines to a very tiny traces of a printed circuit board, wires are still the fundamental means of transferring electric energy from one location to another. We cannot deny this. The history also has consistently demonstrated that human beings are rarely or if ever satisfied with the fundamental ways of doing things, and thus we should not be surprised to learn that the rapidness, the flow, or the proliferation of electricity was followed by widespread efforts to free electrical functionality from the constraints of physical interconnections. There are various ways to incorporate wireless, like the wireless functionality into an electrical system. What I mean to say, one of these is the use of EMR. So RF cannot be discussed without EMR, electromagnetic radiation, and that is the basis of RF communication. However, it is important to recognize that electromagnetic radiation is not unique in its ability to extend electrical circuitry into the wireless domain, but anything that can travel through a non-conductive material like mechanical motion, or maybe sound waves, heat, or could be used as a means of converting electrical energy into information that does not rely upon conductive interconnections. Having this in mind, let us ask ourselves some more relevant questions, like why is EMR and why this is the preferred method. See, if at all we ask all such questions to ourselves when we jump into research, then we can play the way we want with the tools. If we know the technology, then we can comfortably or sensibly we can speak with the tool, or we can work with the tool. What I mean to say, many a times what will happen when we are working with a particular tool, we go for ready-made toolboxes, or even the library functions which are available. But one thing really I want to make you all clear here is, when we take any existing function in any of the tools, we have to understand, or we should be aware of the technology behind that function. What I can say, whether it is giving the complete idea or the complete structure which really I want to implement, or is there any additional requirement from our end. See, since we won't be aware of the background of those functions, many a times we give our data, we simulate, we sometimes we design for our requirements, with our parameters, and if we are not able to get the results as expected satisfactorily, then what we do? We do the trial and error. Since we will have a window, sophisticated window with all the parameters which can be varied comfortably on the screen, we vary it, wherein we start deviating from our actual design and actual expectation of our results or desired results, and we start deviating. Yes, I want this results, so let me put this value than the designed one, and we start working on it. So that trial and error may not give the complete idea of the requirement of the system which we are supposed to design. So what I mean to say here is, having all these in mind, right, we have to have all the questions for ourselves. Why such EMRs have been preferred? Why other types of wireless communication we think of as secondary importance, right? But before we ask or we discuss all these questions, let us understand, right, what is electromagnetic radiation is, and what are the important factors on which it rely. So now, this is basically EMR. Many a times, that's why I will also, everyone knows that why tools are important. Let us come to that point. See, really, we could not spend years studying the details of electromagnetism. We know if we start studying electromagnetics, which we generally called as field theory in our curriculum, as I'm a professor and many of you all may be professors, how difficult to understand the concepts of electromagnetics. Forget about convincing, to understand physically also for ourselves. And we have to spend years together to understand such electromagnetics. But fortunately, we don't need that sort of expertise to successfully design and implement RF circuits. Why? Because of the existence of tools. But we do need to have some basic idea of the mysterious energy being emitted from our device's antenna. Now, let me talk about, let me not deviate from the point. I was talking about EMR wave. As the name implies, electromagnetic radiation involves, as we know, both electric and magnetic fields. If you have voltage, such as voltage across the impedance of an antenna, and have a current, have an electric field, right? Like from a mathematical standpoint, electric field, we know that it is nothing but or proportional to the spatial rate of, right, change of voltage. That is fine. But if we have a voltage across the impedance of antenna, and if we have an electric current, and then we have a magnetic field, right, across that, or existing magnetic field in that area. But however, these fields would not propagate. Steady magnetic field, when initially we talk about, we have a steady magnetic field and a steady electric field. These fields won't propagate. But if we want a wave that will propagate out into the universe, I'm talking about RF communication, right? Then we need changes in voltage and current. We have to make them propagate. And if we start studying the details of the moving electric field and magnetic fields, it is the huge topic. But as I mentioned, right, really we are fortunate that we don't need that sort of expertise really if we want to design and implement the RF circuit. But at the same time, we cannot take the technology or techniques granted and don't rely only on the tools. what I want to really conclude with the slide than explaining what exactly is EMR here. Now, just to move ahead or to give a bit of gist here, as I said, yes, we need to change the voltage and current to propagate the wave. The key to this propagation phenomena is a self-sustaining relationship between electric and magnetic components of the electromagnetic radiation. A changing electric field generates a magnetic field, and a changing magnetic field generates an electric field. Such mutual generation is manifested as a distinct entity, namely an electromagnetic wave. It is once generated, this will travel outward from its source, right? And day after day, at the speed of light towards the depth of the unknown. And that is the significance of EMR, that is electromagnetic radiation. Now let us see, what do you mean by creating EMR and what do you mean by controlling EMR? And then we will see why EMR. We all are aware of. Let me slightly go fast here, right? Agility, speed, range, and we know it is no line of sight which is required. So now, with respect to the creating EMR versus controlling EMR, what I need to discuss on this platform regarding this is designing an entire RF communication system is not so easy. We all are aware of. I'm talking about designing. I'm not talking about simulation. The RF communication can be simulated with any of the tools, almost all the tools which are available from open source to licensed version. But when it comes to the designing an entire RF communication system, it is challenging. However, it is extremely easy to generate EMR. And in fact, we can generate it even when we don't want to do that. Automatically, if current flows, magnetic field generated, current flows. Yes, it's a vice versa. So even we don't want to do it, many a times it starts generating. And we observe also. Any time varying signal in any circuit will generate EMR, right? And this includes digital signals. In most of the cases, this EMR is simply noise. If it is not causing any trouble, then naturally we need not bother about it. We can ignore it. But in some cases, it can actually interfere with other circuitry. At that time, problem comes. And in which case, we call that as electromagnetic interference, and we need to take care of it. We need to control it, what I mean to say. So creating EMR, whether intentionally, unintentionally, is different. But we should have, in RF communication system design, we should have the control of EMR. Unexpectedly, if it is getting generated because of components or in a circuitry, then at least we should be able to identify that EMI, that is electromagnetic interference, and we need to have a control on such signals or such information. Now, sorry. Then we see the RF design. Just a minute. RF design is not about just generating EMR. Rather, RF design is the art and science of generating and manipulating and also interpreting EMR in a way that allows us to reliably transfer meaningful information between two circuits or between two, what I can say, places that have no direct electrical connection, and obviously it is wireless. That's fine. Now, when we refer to RF, there are various other phenomena can transfer information without the aid of wires and because of some reasons, right? Or I can say these are the parameters, or these are the significant parameters because of these, right? Why EMR is in RF communication domain. Now, EMR is natural extension of electrical signals used in wire circuits. Time varying voltages and currents generate, as we know, EMR, whether you can, yes, whether we want it or not, but EMR is precise representation of AC components of the original signal, which we shouldn't forget. Which components are generating EMR, whether it is desired or not, how much of that whole signal is desired, and which type of processing is required. I'm not talking about digital or analog, right? In that particular signal, how much is desired for the transmission also has to be analyzed, right? Now, let us consider an extreme. For example, a heat-based wireless communication system. Imagine that room contains two separate devices, right? Let us consider a room contain two separate devices like transmitter and receiver. The transmitter device heats up the room to a certain temperature based on the message it wants to send. I want to send many informations, and depending on that, right, the transmitter's work is to heats up the room. If the room is getting heated to this temperature, this is the information which I want to send. If it is getting heated for certain one more temperature, this is one more information which I want to send, right? And the receiver device measures and interprets the ambient temperature at the output. But do you feel it is fast? No. This is very sluggish, or really I can say that it's an awkward system because of the temperature of the room cannot precisely follow the variations of an intricate electrical signal, wherein EMR, on the other hand, is highly responsive. And why we have to go for EMR? Just I gave one simple example. So the transmitted RF signals can faithfully reproduce even the complex high frequency waveform. The speed is one more parameter. Why we go for EMR? Also range. Also range. Right? Wireless communication is very closely linked to the pursuit of long distance communication, right? If the transmitter and receivers are in close proximity, it is often simpler and more cost effective to use wires. There is no question of going for wireless or EMR. But as it is a long distance communication, right, we have to go for EMR. And very importantly, what I mean to say is no line of sight is needed. EMR can travel with NLOS also, right? So this is the few parameters, and we need to have the awareness of the EMR signal, electromagnetic radiation signal, what I meant to say in RF communication. Now, let us see, when I talk about RF communication, while implementing such a system, we come across many terminologies like this. And everyone, I don't want to take much of the time here. We know everyone. We all are aware of these terminologies. Decibel and its variants. But let us talk in the context of RF design and testing. Otherwise, also for simple modulation, right? We talk about the gain is this, which is in dB, what dB, why dB, different variants, dBc, dBi, we are aware of. But let us talk this decibel and its variants in the context of RF design and testing. In RF engineering, like all these scientific disciplines and subdisciplines involve quite a bit of specialized terminology. One of the most important words that really we will need when working in the world of RF is dB. It is as good as when we are working with RF project, when we are deeply into the RF project, it is as good as our name, the way we come across the dB word. We all are aware of dB stands for decibel, and it is a logarithmic function, right? Logarithm function which provides a convenient way of referring the ratio, such as the ratio between the amplitudes of an input signal and the output signal. Now, I don't want to cover the generic details of decibels because they are people are aware of it, but we need to be aware of with respect to the RF system. Now, when we talk about dB, whether it is relative, absolute or not absolute. For example, for example, we cannot say simply, see, it is easy to tell that dB is a relative unit, but we can't say that the output power is 10 dB. Because, I mean to say, voltage is an absolute measurement because we always speak of potential difference. That is, difference in potential between 2 points. Usually, we are referring to the potential of one node with respect to the ground or with respect to the 0 volts. That is one more node. Similarly, current is also an absolute measurement because the unit involves the specific amount of charge with respect to the specific amount of time. But in contrast, dB is unit that involves the logarithmic of ratio between two numbers. Let us take this straightforward one example here. If the power of the input signal is 1 watt and the power of the output signal is 5 watt, then the ratio is 5. So 10 log 5 is 7 dB. 7 dB. That is, amplifier provides, for example, 7 dB of power gain. That is nothing but the ratio between the output signal strength and the input signal strength can be expressed as 7 dB. So it is not it is relative, not absolute. What I wanted to say with respect to the dB. Now, why dB? We will understand with the graph here, right? Now, let us move on. Instead of going in depth, many people might be aware of this. Just I wanted to show it. Now here, it's very important. Here, as we have dB variance in this lobe is very big and this back lobe is very small. See, with respect to this, what I want to discuss here is there are two other dB based units like our dBc and dBi. We are aware of, but really at this point of time, I don't want to go in depth of this dBc and dBi, but still I want to discuss here that the antennas, however, can be designed to concentrate radiated energy in certain directions. Am I right? In certain directions. And in this sense, an antenna can have gain. But the antenna is not actually adding power to the signal. When we design an antenna, right, it is not adding power to the signal, but it is effectively increases the transmitted power by concentrating electromagnetic radiation according to the orientation of the communication system while designing. Obviously, this is more practical when the antenna designer knows the special relationship between transmitter and receiver. And therefore, the dBi unit allows the antenna manufacturers to specify a gain figure that uses ever popular as a dB scale. But as always, we need to have a ratio when we are working with dB. And in case of dBi, the antenna gain is given with reference to the gain with respect to the isotropic antenna, and hence it is dBi. Some antennas have significant amounts of gain, and thus they can make a non-trivial contribution to the range or the performance of an RF system. So whether it is dB, dBc or dBi, that we need to think of right? We are not supposed to take this as a simple trivial unit of gain with which we want to measure. We need to think of it. Sorry. Now let us come to the various components of the RF circuits. We have active components and we have passive components. Now, as a passive components, we have resistors, capacitors, temperature compensated oscillators, etc. Right? Briefly, let us take you all through all these things. As I mentioned, these play a very important role when really you want to understand the waveform or the simulation results what we get on the screen using tool. The RF systems are not fundamentally different from other any electronic circuits. As I mentioned, we may think of, yeah, it's a capacitor. We know what is capacitor, what is resistor, what is inductor, everything. Right. These are fundamentally similar types of as we make use in electric systems or circuits. The same laws of physics apply. Yes. Consequently, the basic components used in RF designs are also found in digital circuits or low frequency analog circuits, but their working style, their influence on other components start varying. However, right, RF design involves a unique set of challenges and objectives, as I mentioned, and consequently, the characteristics and uses of these components call for a special consideration when we are operating in the context of RF. Yes, I am making use of capacitor in a low frequency electric circuit or electronic circuit and in high frequency RF circuit, right? We have to think of the same capacitor in a different way. Also, some integrated circuits perform functionality that is highly specific to RF systems. They are not used in low frequency circuits and may not be well understood by those who have a little experience with RF design techniques, right? We often characterize components as either active or passive, as I mentioned, but the approach is equally valid, right, in the realm of RF. Now let us come to this capacitor instead of going in depth. Yes, this graph shows or this circuit shows the capacitor's circuit itself. Like whatever C is mentioned here, it's an ideal capacitor that provides exactly the same frequency for 1 hertz signal and 1 gigahertz signal. There is no difference. But components are never ideal. While taking, we take it as ideal components. And the non-idealities of a capacitor can be a quite significant at high frequencies. They affect tremendously on the desired results. As in the graph, right, this C represents, just a minute, this C represents the ideal capacitor that is buried among so many parasitic elements. We have non-infinite resistance between the plates RD, right, plate RD and series resistance RS and series inductance LS, right, and also the parallel capacitance we have here CP, right, CP, and at the output side also CP between PCB pads, right, and the ground plane which we need to understand. So if at all I am varying the value of C, the way the Swapnil sir was showing, if I vary the value of R, right, how the signal was getting varied. But if I vary this C here, it is not only the C, the other components surrounded by that C, how they are going to have the effect on this C also plays a very important role. And usually why our expected desired results or the actual results starts deviating with the simulation results. The most significant, right, non-ideality when we are working with high frequency signals is the inductance. We all are aware of, right? We expect the impedance of the capacitor to endlessly decrease as frequency increases, right? But the presence of parasitic inductance causes the impedance to dip down here, to dip down at the self-resonant frequency and then begin to increase. This is the ideal capacitor, but actually what happens because of parasitic capacitances, it will have a dip and then starts increasing. Now coming to the inductor, an ideal inductor here would provide impedance that steadily increases, right, as frequency increases, but the parallel capacitors eventually dominates. These parallel capacitors eventually dominates the response, and the result is impedance that decreases as a frequency increases. So we can see both capacitors and inductors must be chosen very carefully when they will be used in RF circuits, especially RF circuits with frequencies well above the gigahertz, that is 1 gigahertz onwards. If at all we are working with this L and C, we have to be very much careful. We cannot deviate from the design. We have to think of the components. Even I don't want to again discuss with the resistor, but even resistors can be troublesome at high frequencies, right? May not be much, but yes, because they have a series inductance and settings. The same applies to any other component, obviously with inductor, capacitor, or any other component. Now, if it's packaged and soldered to the board, parasitic elements are present and which have to be considered. Now, very important, one more component of RF system is a crystal. The essence of, yes, RF is manipulating high frequency signals so that they convey information. That is the motto behind it. But before we manipulate, we need to generate. As in other types of circuits, crystals are a fundamental means of generating the stable frequency. However, in digital and mixed signal design, it is often the case that crystal-based circuits actually do not require the precision that the crystal can provide, and consequently, it's easy to become careless with regard to crystal section and and therefore an RF circuit in contrast may have strict frequency requirements, and this calls for not only initial frequency precision but also frequency stability, right? So when we talk about RF circuit and non-RF circuit, we cannot consider the active components, and we cannot weigh, I mean to say, active and passive components in the same as the same. The oscillation frequency of an ordinary crystal, we know that it is sensitive to a temperature variations, and the resulting frequency instability creates problems for RF systems, especially systems that will be exposed to large variations in ambient temperature. And therefore, a system may require, right, temperature compensated crystal oscillator. We call it as a TCXO, right? And these devices incorporate circuitry that compensates for the crystal's frequency variations. So if at all we want to have, see, if we want to generate the frequency, we go for crystal oscillators. But at the same time, right, system require temperature compensated crystal oscillator if we are talking about RF system or RF system design. Now, this is one more. It looks as a transformer, right? And yes, it is a transformer basically. But one component, right? This is common in RF systems, but rare we get to know. in literature, which is a balun. The name comes from balanced or unbalanced, a phrase which helps us to remember that balance are used to convert differential, that is balanced signals, to single-ended, or that is unbalanced signals, or vice versa, right? And these fall in the general category of transformers, right? As you can see the circuit here, it is the transformer, right? Now, to conclude here, or to summarize here about the components or the passive components, right? Some components are only in RF applications, and others can must be chosen and implemented more carefully because of their non-ideal high frequency behavior. Okay, and passive components exhibit non-ideal frequency response as a result of a parasitic inductance capacitance in the circuit. And RF applications may require crystals that are more accurate and stable than crystal commonly used in digital circuits. And this balance allow the high frequency conversion between single headed and differential signaling. And antennas are critical components that must be chosen according to the characteristics and requirements of such RF system. So when we talk about the design and development of RF system, right, we need to know all these components, how to use and how to consider the parasitic values of those components. Similarly, as I mentioned, we have active components, right? In that we have amplifiers, those amplifiers, we can have low noise amplifiers, power amplifiers, right? And so on. Now, low noise amplifiers, if I talk about, or power amplifiers or mixers, etc., all are active components used in RF systems, right? As with but passive components, the active components used in RF circuits share many characteristics with active components typically found in low frequency analog systems. However, there are certain components that are highly specific to RF design, and therefore different semiconductor technologies are often employed to ensure that RF components maintain adequate performance at very high frequencies. Where amplifier circuits often built around the operational amplifier, as shown in the slide, are extremely common both in low frequency and high frequency analog design. In RF systems, there are two fundamental types of amplifiers. One is power amplifier and another one is low noise amplifier. The former are used to increase the power level of the RF signal prior to the transmission, and the same later are used to amplify the signals received by the antenna. Where the power amplifier, abbreviated as PA, is used to increase the power level of the signal before it is sent to the antenna. And a similar situation is found in audio circuits also. The audio signal's amplitude may be perfectly adequate in terms of voltage, but the power amplifier is needed to supply large amounts of current to the speaker coil. In audio, more current corresponds to more power, right? And this is in turns corresponds to more volume. And therefore, in RF, high power means longer range. That is about power. Now, if we talk about low noise amplifier, there are many non-RF applications that require no low noise amplification. But the specific phrase low noise amplifier is common only in the context of RF. Actually, we usually hear it as LNA, right? Abbreviated as LNA. But the received signal delivered by an antenna can be of very low magnitude, and further it is buried in noise. It shouldn't happen, right? This signal needs to be amplified for the further processing. but it is also important to minimize further degradation of the signal to noise ratio. Thus, a low noise amplifier is designed to provide high voltage gain while contributing to minimal noise. So we need to think of this active component while designing the RF circuit. Next, we come to the mixer. Another fundamental RF component as displayed here, right? This name is misleading, right? If really we think of the RF mixer does not combine signals as an audio mixer does, right? Otherwise, mixer, that's what we need to differentiate the low frequency components and high frequency components. Same component. We call this as a mixer here also and there also. And that's why I told that, yes, many a times I feel that it is misleading. Okay, it doesn't just combine the signals as we do it in audio, right? Rather, the RF mixer takes two input frequencies and generates the third output frequency via multiplication. In other words, the mixer performs frequency translation, right? And that is the actual meaning of mixer in RF domain. These mixers allow signals to be shifted to other higher or lower frequencies in a way that maintains the details of the signal. For example, information carrying, that is when it is modulated, baseband signal can be shifted to the higher frequency that is suitable for wireless transmission, and the transmitted signal will retain the important modulation details that were present in the baseband signal, which is the example, right? What exactly the mixer is in RF domain. Now, coming to the one more component, the actual generation of the periodic signal is more closely related to the domain of passive components, but active components are used to manipulate these periodic signals, where the PLL is actually a system of subcomponents like a minimum of phase detector, a low pass filter, right, a voltage control, that is VCU, and a frequency divider that allows the wide variety of output frequencies to be generated from one input frequency. We can actually, in one of the research, open research, we call it as frequency dispersion, right? If at all we need to increase the bandwidth, where we can think of such components. Combining such PLL with high precision temperature compensated oscillator, that is TCO, converts a highly accurate but fixed frequency into a system that can produce highly accurate yet variable output frequencies. And then such oscillator combined with PLL is referred to as synthesizer. That is component that can generate a range of frequencies, not the single frequency, right? So this is one more component. And finally, data converters or RF semiconductors. If I talk about, it is the huge topic, but it goes with the semiconductor materials used, right, in the design of components. But if I talk about at least the data converters, right, these plays the very important, since we need in RF design and analog down conversion, analog rise, demodulation, and then again we need ADC, right? These data converters also plays the very important roles in RF design. If I talk about RF semiconductors, still we know that silicon is the dominant material in manufacturing, right? Semiconductor manufacturing. However, other materials are more compatible with high signal frequencies present in RF systems. Three alternative materials that are used in RF semiconductors are gallium nitride, gallium arsenide, and silicon germanium, right? we all are aware of. Specialized semiconductor technologies make it possible to fabricate devices that maintain adequate performance at extremely high frequencies, that is almost above 100 gigahertz. So still silicon is dominant, but there are alternatives, and researchers have to think of all various materials. So if I talk about why I'm talking about again to such extent or to such basics, one may think of. Now, if I go with the simulation with various tools, when I drag and drop the components, right, they will have their own, what I can say, the material used or the characteristics considered for that component, right? They start varying from actual to simulation, practical to simulation, right? And that is the reason why, as repeatedly I'm telling, we deviate from the actual, from simulation to practical. So all these we need to think of, we need to justify, we need to find out. Instead I say justify, we need to find out the reasons why the deviations are. And yes, obviously this is all about the components. Active components proposed in for RF systems may offer specialized functionality to maintain performance at high frequencies, right? And an RF amplifier is usually categorized as a power amplifier or a low noise amplifier, LNA. The previous provides power gain in the preparation of, for transmission, and the later provides the high voltage gain and low noise. Just to summarize it is, RF mixers perform frequency translation by multiplying two input signals, where PLL can be combined with an oscillator to produce a frequency synthesizer, right? And then followed by ADCs and DACs are very important components in RF devices, and they are increasingly common in modern wireless systems, right? Uh, like as they are essential in, yes, SDRs. Now, a recently reflected blend of silicon, germanium, and carbon, right, is now available to make RF circuits even better. So, Motorola has announced its first standard product using this new semiconductor material, complete with an integrated bypass switch. The low noise amplifier provides high gain, low noise for microwave signals. So all these things we need to think of, and every uh, tool will be different with respect to such, what I can say, the recent advancements. So we should be aware of all these things. Now coming to the actually technology, having a brief towards all this, right? Actual the technology is the analog signal processing. Yeah, I think so. In the beginning only, I discussed saying that many a times in RF system design, DSP fails, right? And where the analog signal processing comes into picture. Now, today's exploding demand for faster, more reliable, and ubiquitous or rapid radio systems in communication, or maybe instrumentation, or maybe radar and sensors poses unprecedented challenges in microwave and as well as millimeter wave engineering. Recently, the predominant trend has been to place an increasing emphasis on digital signal processing. However, while offering device compactness and processing flexibility, DSP suffers fundamental drawbacks such as high cost, analog to digital conversion, high power consumption, and poor performance at high frequencies. Right? DSP is it performs very good, but at low frequencies. It depends, right? So it performs poor really at high frequencies. So to overcome all these drawbacks, and and hence to address such challenges, one might possibly get inspiration from the ultra fast optics, where light comes into picture again, In this area, ultra short and thus huge bandwidth electromagnetic pulses are efficiently processed in real time using analog and dispersive material and components. So we consider here that same approach could be potentially applied to high frequency and high bandwidth microwave signals, leading to systematic microwave analog signal processing, which we call it as ASP, as an alternative to DSP based processing, with particular promise for millimeter and terahertz frequency applications. And thus the analog signal processing is nothing but the manipulation of signals in the pure analog form and in real time is required to realize specific operations enabling microwave or millimeter or terahertz applications. Now, when I talk about analog signal processing, there are many approaches, right? Researchers go with different, since everything depends on the operation on the signal here, right? Which operation analyzes what I mean to say is the operation analyzes which operation analyzes the signal in what way, what I mean to say, right? And manipulation of such operations will give you the different approaches, right? And few approaches I want to discuss over here. One is chirping and with the time spreading, and another that goes on again application, what I want, whether I want time spread signal or frequency discrimination without time spreading. This depends. So which type of operation is applied on which type of signal and what modifications have been done. So let me just give you all the brief about two approaches here. One is chirping with time spreading and another one is frequency discrimination in the time domain. Okay, where the essence of ASP comes into picture. Right. The ASP might be best approached by considering two specific effects, like what I have mentioned here. These both effects involve linear element with transfer function h of omega, what I have mentioned. Okay, h of omega is equal to e raised to j phi of omega, which is assumed to be of unity magnitude and whose phase is z of omega, is a non-linear function of a frequency or whose group delay, right, h of omega will be associated with it, assuming the time harmonic phasor difference dependence is a function of frequency. So we need to think of, right, the group delay here to spread the time or not to spread the time. Okay, so here we have to let me explain those two with these graphs itself. Let us see the first picture shows the chirping case, where we can see that a pulse which is of the Gaussian shape, which is transformed with the help of this h of omega, passed through this function here, right, giving the delayed signals or delayed frequencies, right? Now, what I mean to say here is, due to the dispersive nature of this element, I mean to say, due to the dispersive nature of this element, the different spectral components of the pulse here, the different components of the pulse experiences the different delays and therefore emerge at different times. Here, the lower frequency components are less delayed, and therefore emerge earlier than the higher frequency components. And if we look at the time here, right, it has also extended. T out is greater than T naught. Right? This results in an output pulse whose group delay is greater than the input. And this process or the phenomena, we call it as chirping here, right? Which has the experience of chirp spreading, which we call it as a T out is greater than T naught, accompanied by reduced amplitude. Look at the amplitude of this signal and this. So at the cost of the reduced amplitude due to the energy conservation. But when undesired, right, this time spreading effect can be compensated by either using the stepped group delay phasor or by compression. So for example, right, I want the time spread like this. So I can go with such uh, the chirping case, right? But at the same time, it is at the cost of amplitude. But really, if you want this as undesired, right, then we have to take care of this. Now, the second one is, as I mentioned, right, frequency discrimination. Now, this is the frequency with two components. One is omega naught 1 and omega naught 2. Here, the centered frequency was only omega naught. But here, it is centered with two frequencies, omega naught 1 and omega naught 2. And when it is passed through such signal with two centered frequencies, omega naught 1 and omega naught 2 here, right, it won't be delayed. If it is delayed, not with too many delays, there are only two delays here. So lower frequency signals will be delayed by one time, right? And high frequencies will be accumulated with one more centered frequency. So, but if you look at the time dispersion here, which do not change, which remains the same. So such functions are the open research topics. So for which application the chirping is required, and for which application, that is a time spreading is required, and for which application, right, frequency discrimination is required. This is a low frequency signal is separated by high frequency signal with the two different centered frequencies. And if we want to understand again such signals, right, we need to go with the real time Fourier transform, where real time Fourier transform, right, enables Fourier analysis, which really speeds up beyond conventional digital signal processing, where optical RTFT commonly relies, right, on including large group velocity dispersion on the input waveform to map the signal's frequency spectrum along with the time domain. Although dispersive RTFT has found a wide range of applications, the relatively limited dispersion in available transparent media means that its optical frequency resolution is typically restricted to above the gigahertz range. That represents a critical limitation for applications in real-time spectroscopy, ultra-fast detection, imaging, as well as sensing, right? Or photonic assisted generation also. And processing of radio frequency signals. So almost all radio frequency signals undergo real-time Fourier transform. So ASP is not an established technology to systematically process microwave signals, but ASP technology features promising attributes and seems to possess a particularly great potential for the millimeter wave and terahertz applications, where conventional DSP based systems are inefficient or many a times even inapplicable. Now, as I was just discussing, digital and software RF processing, right? Though we say that analog processing, RF analog signal processing is the present day requirement, but then these are the open-ended research problems that replace analog processing with the digital processing as much as possible. Move A to T or D to A as front as possible. Digital compensation for analog impairments as many as possible. Because of that, what are the benefits here? Low power, high flexibility, low cost, multiple standards, and multiple modes of wireless communication, digital broadcasting, radar and sonar, that is peak to average power ratio, that is PAPR, right? And very much reduction is much more greater than OPEX saving, operational, right? These are the open-ended things. And because of those benefits and the open-ended challenges, we can have people are working with digital pre-distortion, DPD, and crest factor reduction, CFR, digital up conversion, DUC, and digital down conversion, right? Then ADC and DAX, resampling algorithms and mismatch imbalance compensation, noise shaping and pulse shaping. Since again, if you want to improve the RF signaling process, whether it is chirping on or frequency separation, right? Shaping of pulse comes into picture. So noise shaping or pulse shaping is one more open topic. Then numerical controlled oscillator and digital mixer. Then very importantly, RF photonic and microwave signal processing with Kerr microcomms. That is, this is one of the, again, big research topic where people are working with the integration, with the, again, integration of fractional differentiation and integration. Again, here it is not the just integration of these two. Integration is the part of my microcombs, and then fractional differentiation and Hilbert transforms. Now, the RF photonic and microwave signal processing with, let us discuss in brief, Kerr microcombs. Uh, the features of this microcombs is nothing but compact device footprint, high versatility, large number of wavelengths, which is the requirement of any RF system, and wide Nyquist rate. Then what are microcombs here? These produce the large number of comb lines, like different wavelengths, that greatly increases the performance and processing bandwidth of RF systems in terms of both amplitude and phase response. They have shown their powerful capabilities for the RF signal processing due to their large comb lines, right? Microcombs, these are small, efficient, and fast sources with which the communication happens parallelly, right? And the data rate at which the information is transmitted also increases. An important application of microcombs is radio frequency RF or a microwave systems. We believe microcombs as one of the ultimate solutions of integrated multi-wavelength sources, which are going to be universal components of the photonic signal processing systems. And the huge research is going on. And where these are the important factors on which people are working, and not individual, like using microcombs only using integration, microcombs only using fractional differentiation, or a microcombs are generated also can be only Hilbert transforms, or maybe the combination of these two or the combinations of all here, right? Only one example, I have shown. See, this is the RF signal. This is the flattened microcomb, which is not generated by any of these, what I can say, technologies or techniques. This is just a flattened microcomb. When it is multiplied with this, right, we get different wavelength inputs here. And when we integrate it, that is the integration here, right? When we integrate it, we get the signal with different wavelengths or with different frequencies. So this is the source of multiple wavelengths, which is nothing but called as integration. So similarly, fractional differentiation, right? We have in a differentiation. What is differentiation? We know we start differentiating the RF equation. Given the RF equation generated from the design, we start differentiating. But fractional differentiation is one of the technique which is again the source of the multiple wavelengths to be generated. So we start integrating that equation for the first order, second order, third order, or multiple order, and then we start getting the multiple wavelengths with which the data transmission will be increasing. And one more is Hilbert transform, right? So again, these are the huge three different areas wherein we can make use of these areas and we can try, right, with the combinations also to generate the multiple wavelengths. And I think so it is the lunchtime. If we start discussing all these design tools in detail, it will be late, but many people are aware of, right? We have various different tools like ADS, Microwave Office, pads, Cadence also, FECO, Flux, Sonnet Suite, Microwave Wizard, HFSS, Maxwell, CST Studio, especially in CST Studio, we have microwave simulation, EM simulation, right? CS, PCB simulation, right? Design simulation, many more. And we are studying, we are, as a part of this FDP, we are looking into Tarang also, and many more, right? So we need to decide upon to which tool we should go for which application, and what are the facilities, and we should jump into the research, right? So we can learn again with the MATLAB, since 5G development tools also are available in MATLAB and in many of the tools which I shown here. And these are the few references. And any queries? Yes, you can either contact me or we can discuss on this platform. So thank you very much, sir, Thorse sir, for giving me the opportunity to be a part of this discussion. Yes, anything.
Yes, participants, if you have any questions, you can unmute and ask, or else you can type in the chat box. It was a very exhaustive, starting from fundamental to the RF microcombs explanation, ma'am. Thank you so much. On behalf of the organizing team, the Institute, KLS Gokte Institute of Technology, and Atal Academy, I thank you for sparing your valuable time, and all the participants, a special thanks for being with us during the holiday. Thank you so much. Thank you, everyone.
Yeah, thank you, sir. Thank you.